What makes a photo aesthetic? Today, I'm going to be showing you one trick that'll instantly improve your photos within seconds. Let me introduce to you the idea of composition. Composition is the way in which we arrange our elements within the image. We care about this arrangement to make our photos more aesthetic. Oftentimes, people think it's the camera that makes a photo good, where the more expensive camera equals a better photo. But that isn't always the case. These images I took were all taken on my iPhone 11. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, gear does matter to a certain extent. No doubt that a better lens and a better camera can give you better quality, but that doesn't mean the images are more visually appealing, you know what I mean? Not all of us have thousands of dollars to spend on gear, so what we can improve instead is our skill level as a photographer. There's a whole myriad of composition rules that exist. Today, I'm gonna be going over the simplest one, the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds has you breaking up your image into a 3x3 grid. The idea here is to place your subject on either these vertical lines or the points of intersection. Doing this can make the image more balanced and pleasing to the eye. Adding balance to the photo allows your viewer's eye to interact more naturally with the image. The way I like to think when I'm using the rule of thirds is 1. What is my subject? And 2. Where should I put it? I will prove to you right now that this works by walking you through some examples. Look at this framing where the subject is dead center. A lot of other photography educational resources will say this framing looks flat and dull, but to be honest, that means nothing to my monkey brain. But there is something off here. It is because there should be a logical flow to the image. Since the subject is facing off to the left, there should be some space on the left so the audience can also see what the subject is looking at. This is known as looking room. I can use the rule of thirds as a guideline as to how to fix the framing of the image. If I were to move Charmander to one of the vertical third lines, the image looks a whole lot better. But what would be even better is, if this video taught you something new, please hit the like button so this video can spread to more beginner photographers. Generally, when you are shooting portraits, try to have the eye line match up with the topmost horizontal line. This is done to make sure there is not too much or too little headroom in the framing. I took this photo of my friend. I positioned his shoe and his head on the intersecting points with his head in focus. By positioning the shoe on the left side of the frame and the head on the right side of the frame, this balances the photo. Since we tend to read from left to right, the eye will start off on the left subject and be guided to the right subject. The shoe being out of focus creates a sense of depth and adds to the appeal of the portrait. For landscapes, we align bordering areas along either of the horizontal lines. Bordering areas include the line where the horizon begins or the line where land borders the sea, or when there is a transition to the sky. You determine which horizontal line to use as your border based on what you want to show more of in the image. Okay, remember that checklist I mentioned about what I think when I'm using the rule of thirds? Well, I kind of left something out, and that's because this intermediate step is a little bit less obvious. If you have any photography related questions, please drop them in the comments down below. I do read and respond to all comments. The first step is, what is my subject? And then right before I think to myself where I want to put the subject, the intermediate step is, what emotion do I want to convey with my image? Photos can invoke emotion in our viewer, and composition plays a very big role in that. Here, our subject is placed on one of the lower intersecting points, and look at all this blank space. Placing our subject at the lower point emphasizes all the blank space. It makes our subject small. This type of shot creates a feeling of loneliness and isolation. Here, we have a close-up shot of our subject with the eyes on the upper horizontal. This close-up creates a dramatic feeling and makes you feel claustrophobic. These examples go hand in hand with shot type in filmmaking, but that is a whole different topic for another video. So how do you use the rule of thirds in practice? Well, the easiest way is to turn on your camera's grid lines. This will overlay a grid like the one we showed earlier onto your viewfinder or screen, making it easy to line up your shots. The rule of thirds does not mean you can never place your subject in the center of the photo. Oh god, double negative. You can still put stuff in the center of the frame, and you don't always have to get the subject perfectly on the lines or the points of intersection. Use the rule of thirds as a general guideline, as a starting point on how to craft your image, and then go from there. All this talk on the rule of thirds is great and all, but it means nothing if you don't know how to expose your image properly. To make sure you always get the right camera settings for your photo, watch my video on the exposure triangle next.